Good afternoon and welcome to Lunch Break with the Rabbi. I know we haven't been on this week much, but God willing, soon we'll get more and we'll see what's going on and how often we're going to do this. Hopefully we can go back to start having some real live in-person classes and not only resort to the virtual online classes. But in honor of Shabbat, we are here today to give you some insight into the holy day of Shabbat and to the upcoming holiday that you may not be aware of that's coming up this Shabbos. This Shabbos is called Shabbos Nachamu. Nachamu, which means to console. One of the reasons why it's called to console is because as God consoles the Jewish people, he comforts them on the destruction of the Holy Temple. And because of this, we continue to ask God to give us and to bless us with the Holy Temple. As we're coming from the mourning and the destruction of the Temple, and the prophecy that we read of Isaiah, in this Shabbat, he tells the Jewish people, Nachamu, Nachamu, that God comfort me, comfort ye, the Jewish people, comforting them on the destruction of the temple, letting them know that salvation and blessings and hope and prayer for the coming of Moshiach. But why the double consolation? Why the double terminology of comfort ye, comfort ye? And over here, the commentaries explain to us, some want to say simplistically, because of the two temples that were going to be destroyed, Isaiah prophesies for their consolation for the both of the temples. Another interpretation, another interpretation that some have is that for the spiritual and physical diminishing, the physical and spiritual loss, comforting the Jewish people for the physical loss of the actual temple and the spiritual significance that's behind it. But if we look this week on the holy day of Shabbos, is also another special day. It is the 15th of Av. The 15th of Av that our sages say they're the greatest of all holidays. There is no greater holiday like this 15th of Av. Because on the 15th of Av, the Jewish women who were able to find their proper match, as the women would march amongst the vineyards in white borrowed clothing, saying, young man, look not at lineage, look not at wealth, look not at scholarship, look at the beauty within the soul of each individual. Now, what kind of holiday is this? Now, this custom of the women doing this stopped after the era of the Second Temple, maybe because we weren't at that spiritual level to be able to understand it or appreciate it. But regardless, there are different events that also happened on the 15th of Av that the Talmud calls that is considered a great holiday. For example, being that the summer months start to wane, and that now the sun is not as strong, it was the time when they stopped cutting the wood for the altar. Every single day, sacrifices were brought on the altar, and wood was needed to bring those sacrifices. They stopped cutting the wood because then it was not be considered really dry for it to be on the altar. Why then is that a significance? Why is it a holiday? And Hasidism takes the comforting of that is mentioned in Isaiah and takes this holiday and brings it all together to give us a better understanding of what it means, consolation. That over here we are celebrating, in fact, when God gives us a certain dilemma or predicament, he also gives us the antidote to be able to deal with it. We just came from the saddest day in Jewish history, the 9th of Av. The antidote is the 15th of Av. The 9th of Av, it talks about and commemorates the destruction of the temple, while the 15th of Av commemorates the celebration of Jewish life, whether it's women getting married or the very fact that there was bringing holiday sacrifices on the altar. But in fact, the two have a very important message and are intertwined, and that is the best consolation that one can ever have. What is a solid marriage? What is a true relationship? is a sacrifice that is consistent, meaning that when one realizes that marriage is not about love, but it's more about respect, and respect that brings to love. Respect and understanding in a consistent basis. It's not a one-time event. It's not a one-time affair. But a marriage and a relationship is something which is consistently done, a sacrifice of each individual. A sacrifice meaning that they give themselves over. The word karban in Hebrew means to come close. That they become close to one another, recognizing and appreciating the greatness and respecting the soul of that unique individual. Not because of their wealth, not because of their beauty, not because of their lineage, but because of their soulful connection that they have with one another. That brings to an everlasting and an eternal relationship. One that is consistent, one that will always be of comforting and consolation. That even in the times of destruction, you will not feel the destruction because you are there together as one. This, the prophet Isaiah tells the Jewish people, is the relationship that God has with the Jews. That we are not one of many separate entities or separate ideas, but we are actually together as one. We have that consistent relationship of every single day. God gives us multiple mitzvahs that we can connect with, multiple ways that we can relate to it, multiple ways that we can bring a sacrifice and have a relationship in real time. God says this consistent relationship, it was what brings a respect and love and admiration for one another, God for the Jewish people and the Jewish people for God. So the destruction, as difficult as it may be, it is also comforting to know that there's a way to rebuild and there's a way we come out of it. This the Jewish people tell us, this the Hasidism tells us, is why the great celebration of the 15th of Av, symbolic of this absolute subservience and commitment and consistent relationship that we have with God. When all of us together celebrate this relationship, recognize and appreciate this relationship we have, the love and respect that we give to one another, the recognition of the soulful relationship that we have, we come to appreciate and to come to recognize the identity of who we are, what we stand for, and how this great celebration is the greatest celebration ever can imagine. There is no other holiday as great as this, which intensifies and shows our absolute connection to God, unseverable even after the greatest destruction of the Holy Temple. May we only celebrate happy times, good times, and see this great celebration come to fruition with the building of our Holy Temple. May it be now. Amen. Wishing you a good Shabbos, a Shabbos Nachum, where we all be comforted in our own life, in our own way. The greatest comfort of all, the coming of Mashiach. Have a great day.